Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Charles E. Harvey, candidate for President of the United States for year 2012. Do you like that song? Catchy tune. They sang it during the Depression. Really apropos for today, I believe, don't you? Today I want to talk to you about the budget cuts planned by our government, or where they're cutting. It just baffles me. I tossed and turned last night thinking, they just don't get it. That human beings, the Americans, should always come first. Everything else is last. And year after year, election after election, we keep putting in the same politicians doing the same thing, and we can't stand the politicians. It's about time to take someone like myself that cares about the people, that's not a atypical politician, that comes from the middle class, well educated, and willing to work hard to take care of Americans first. You know, these people, I'm sorry, they're idiots in Washington. How they want to cut programs dealing with human beings and don't want to cut defense, and they don't want to cut NASA space program. And yet they want to spend 60 billion, yeah, that's right, 60 billion, and earmarks, 6,000 earmarks, pork barrels they've all chosen for their state. Isn't that amazing? But they don't want to cut that. It's Ryan, along with 9 other senior House Republicans, in March 2010 urged a moratorium on mere earmarks as the only way to wipe out the state clean and allow us to start getting spending under control. But I do want you to know that was a recent decision by Ryan, because he had earmarked many programs for several $1,000,000 before he came to this conclusion. Spending plan is about $40 billion is what they're planning on cutting. And some of the places are old programs serving high-speed rail. Yeah, we can live without that. Emergency first aid responders. Wow. I think that's important. And National Endowment for Arts. Well, that's something we enjoy. Culture, we don't need that. And that's a drop in the bucket. Around $500 million for all the programs under the auspice of National Endowment of Arts. It's we're cutting where it benefits people. And the worst part of it is that $4 trillion budget plan would transform Medicare, reset budget, sweeping changes to Medicare as well as Medicaid. Well, the word sweeping changes and transform means we're going to cut a lot of those programs. What's interesting, the one that's yelling the loudest, Representative Ryan, is the health care Ryan is wanting to cut, and etc. He voted against the Patient Protection and Affordable Care, the Obamacare Act, and also voted in favor of repealing the bill, despite the independent, nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office declaring that the repeal of this would add $230 billion more to their deficit. Do you believe that? And here's Ryan, who's accepted $660,000 in contribution from the insurance industry, over $1 million from the healthcare industry, $431,000 from health professionals, $230,000 for pharmaceutical and health products, hospital and nursing homes, $180,000. Health service, HMO, $161,000. Isn't that interesting? And this is the guy that's going to slash all these Medicare and low-income programs. Most of you know, but I want to review it and let it sink in. Medicaid is for low-income people, humans in America. Pregnant women, children under the age of 19, people 65 and over, people who are blind, people who are disabled, and people who need care in a nursing home. Isn't that amazing? And that's where we want to cut. And Medicare is for people over 65 and people of any age who have kidney failure and long-term kidney disease. And people who are permanently disabled. And Ryan wants to cut from there. You know, if you look up the definition of welfare, it's interesting. It sounds so beautiful. By health, happiness, and fortune of a person or a group. Stationary procedures of social efforts designed to promote the basic physical and material well-being of people in need. Rights, the education of housing and welfare. Right? Now, we've got to cut from there. We don't want to cut, you know, from the $60 billion in pork barrels, 6,000 earmarks that the senators and reps have picked for their states. We don't want to bother that. And then we want to increase programs for death of people. I'm being sarcastic, but Defense Department, you know, to design weapons, mass destruction, killing people. You know, we have enough toys and missiles and rockets and systems and planes and ships to handle any war for the next 20 years. So let's take a 10-year moratorium. Instead of putting $100 billion to them, let's cut back and give them enough to maintain what we have. You know, it's unbelievable. And then since the NASA program, we spent $670 billion looking for green aliens and other planets that we can exploit. That's my dogs. BJ, Lily, I'm doing a recording bit. BJ, Lily. They're good guard dogs. I mean, do you really think that we need to take care of the unemployed, the poor, the children, the invalid, the elderly is more priority than trying to find little aliens and trying to find another planet we can exploit? I don't think so. And the irony is, if we found a planet that was possibly inhabitable, and they know it's no closer than 20 light years, that means we'd have to load the people up and travel at the speed of light for 20 years before we got there. Well, there's a problem. You see, we do around 18,000, and on a good orbit around a big planet, we might pick up to 30,000 miles per hour for a little bit. But to give you an example, we'd have to do the speed of light. It would be like putting men in a spacecraft, launch them, and they would be at the moon in 1 minute. So as you can see, it's not very probable. So I'm saying let's completely cut back on NASA for 10 years until we get ourselves out of the hole. You know, like I said, it's insane. We want to build more toys, more weapons. We want to look for little aliens, and we want to look for other planets. And we're not taking care of ourselves and Americans right here on planet Earth. You know, and like I said, around 60 billion in pork, about 6,000 earmarks for 2011. And it's not just Democrats loading the bill with pork. Although Democrats dominate the list in 6,000. But 2 Republicans top the list with a total of 429 earmarks for the state of Mississippi alone. And let me give you an example of a few of these programs that are totally insane. A tattoo removal program in San Luis Obispo County, California, $50,000. I wonder what senator has a tattoo they want removed. The Fort Union Trading Post Bike Trail in North Dakota, $500,000. The Center on Obesity, West Virginia, $2 million. And an effort to combat goth culture in Blue Spring, Missouri. Okay, $270,000. Then there's therapeutic horseback riding in Apple Valley, California for $150,000. The recovery of Preble Meadows jumping mouse, $500,000. And Washington State's dolphin replacement project for $4 million. $200,000 for the restoration of the, I don't know what it is, Isle Theater in Wahokee Town, Hawaii. $100,000 for an Alabama quail trail. $750,000 for a wildlife facility in Quebec, Vermont. $250,000 for the infrastructure upgrade in a lesbian and gay location in New York. You know, it's interesting. Our total revenue right now is 2.57 trillion. And our spending is 3.8 trillion totally spending. And it's got so bad the U.S. has borrowed from Social Security that us Americans have paid into and worked for years. And yet they want to cut back on all these programs that help children, women, and the elderly. You know, I can't, you know, when I hear that, you know what I do? I think of a certain culture in Germany. That's what I think of. I think of places like Darfur, you know, not direct killing people, but how we're treating people. And we're sitting around allowing this, and we keep voting the same type of politicians that are full of wind. Every 4 years we put one in the office. We've done it 44 times in a row, a former politician. You know, I promise if you put me, a well-educated, caring person from the middle class that knows what's going on, that I will fight for the people here in America. So please give me some serious thought. Go to my site, CharlesHarveyForPresident.com or .org. Go to the petition page and sign so I can get on the ballot. That's all I ask. Let the people decide. You know, my cost is going to be $1,500 out of my pocket, maybe $2,000. I'm asking for no donations. I mean, we can't have that, right? We can't have an average, well-intelligent, caring person that knows how to hire and make common sense decisions for the people, not spending $1 trillion in advertisement telling you how lousy all the candidates are. So who knows? God's help, a middle class help, which is 72% of the population, I could be in the White House. So have a beautiful day. This is Charles Harvey, page 2, the rest of the story.